Perfect mess is my perfect mess. Perfect mess is my perfect mess.
Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Perfect Mess Podcast. I am your host, Ray Molina, and this is episode number 4. We made it. I'm starting to get comfortable with this, man. I think you may have been able to tell on episode 3. I'm starting to really lock in and get comfortable, and I'm happy about that because, like I told you before, this is something new that I'm doing. Never done this before, so I'm trying to get my feet wet, and I think we're getting there. So hopefully you're enjoying these, the episodes that I've dropped previously, and and if you're on YouTube and you're watching, yeah, man, I appreciate you guys. Some good news: we finally hit Apple Podcasts, which I'm pretty happy about, because prior to having my own podcast, that is how I used to listen to all my podcasts. Through Apple Podcasts. So that's awesome. I think the only podcast I listened to on Spotify was the Joe Budden podcast, which I absolutely love, man. That's an awesome podcast. But I'm happy to be on Apple Podcasts. So if you are there, please do me a favor, leave a review there. Hit the subscribe button, and please share the podcast. This thing's only going to grow if you guys are enjoying it and you guys share with your friends on your social media platforms, or text it to people and let people know that maybe there's some things on here that they might like. With that being said, we're still going through this pandemic, right? We're still we're still sheltering in place. I don't know where you're at, where you're listening from, but here in California, in the Bay Area, we are still doing quarantine, and it's going clear through the end of May. So we've got about 3 weeks left, which, yeah, man, if you're with me, man, this has been trying. This has definitely put our backs against the wall and kind of put us in predicaments that we're not used to. And I shouldn't say kind of, it really has. It's definitely tested our patience. It's tested so many things, our relationships, tempers in our relationships. You name it, tempers with our kids, patience with our kids, if you're a parent. So hopefully you guys are doing okay. I'm doing okay. Like I said, my job is to make sure that my boys' mentality and their spirits are up, because they definitely miss playing baseball. They miss going to school and being around their friends, as they should. And so my job as a father is just to kind of keep their spirits up, keep them moving, keep them exercising like I do. Probably see the setup right here. If you're listening, you can't see it, but I got my pull-up bar hanging from my door right behind me, and my hiking backpacks, and I think you might be able to see my mountain bike right back there. So trying something new, man, giving you guys a more natural background here for those of you who are watching on YouTube, as to this is kind of my get up right here. This is my element. But anyways, moving forward, episode 4, we're going to title this one, Learning to Be Alone and Not Be Lonely, which is hard because a lot of people don't know the difference, all right? A lot of people feel like if you're alone, you're lonely, and that's just not true. I can tell you from my own experience, the first time I had to deal with being alone and having to deal with being lonely was when like I said in previous episodes, when I went through my divorce. You kind of have that part of your life figured out, or at least I thought I had it figured out. I had my wife, I had my kids, I had my life. So that part of my life was figured out. Now I just got to figure out all this other stuff. And life kind of just happens, right? And so when that changed for me, it took me and put me in a tailspin, and I was once again alone. This time I had kids, but obviously they're going from two homes now. So there are times when I don't have them, and early on, it was very, very difficult to deal with. Um, yeah, it's hard to explain, but it was tough. And I gave you some of that in podcast one, where I talked about the first night that I spent alone without my kids, how hard that was for me. But I think this podcast that we're going to talk about today, I think this is actually really good timing, and I'll say this because us going through what we're going through right now, this pandemic, this coronavirus, COVID-19, and having to shelter in place. A lot of us are probably dealing with that. If you're single and you're not in a relationship, and maybe you don't have kids or anything, and maybe you don't live too close to family, you could be dealing with this right now, and it's probably really, really hard for you. I can tell you the truth. For me, I am single. I'm not in a relationship. My family doesn't really live out here in the Bay Area. They live out of state. I think the closest family that I'm really close to lives about 2, almost 3 hours away from me. So for the most part, it is me and my 2 sons. But when they are not with me, I am definitely alone. Now, don't get me wrong. I have, my friends and buddies of mine that that I've grown up with, that we still keep in touch. But here's the thing: when you're in your 40s, like I am, your friends aren't doing a lot of single things anymore, so to say. Because they've got their own relationships, they've got their own families, and they're trying to make sure that those things are taken care of. So when you go through something like I did, you really, truly are alone. Because everybody else's life is still kind of going, and you're now trying to figure out this new you. How do I become this new me, and how do I deal with being alone again, and how do I navigate through that? So if you're in that boat with me, maybe you're not going through a divorce. Maybe you're just single and you're alone and you're quarantined and you're sheltering in place and you're by yourself and you're just alone. I know that can be very tough. Maybe you're reaching out to people that you maybe normally wouldn't reach out to, but you're lonely. I get it. And I got to be honest with you. I'll be very candid, like I always am. I can say, and I just told this to somebody, I don't know how well I would have done during this time if this quarantine and this virus had hit 2, maybe 3 years ago. I got to be honest, I don't know if I would have pulled through. And the reason why I say that is because I was already in a very dark place. I was already not wanting to be here anymore. I didn't want to be alive. I just didn't want, and yeah, I had kids. That's how bad it was. So I can't imagine how I would be dealing with that, and then dealing with now having to shelter in place. So if you're there and you're dealing with this right now, I get it. Okay? I do. It's not easy. On the flip side, I have some friends that are in relationships that were already rocky, and now that they are having to shelter in place, they've gotten worse. And that's the flip side. So I try to keep that in mind with what's going on right now, and know that it could be a whole nother way. You know what I mean? But let's talk about learning to be alone and not being lonely. When I went through this process of realizing I was going to go through a divorce, I moved, like I think I told you in podcast one, I moved to the garage because I was trying to save whatever I could with my marriage. I was trying to salvage it. I didn't want to leave the house. I definitely didn't want to leave my kids, and I wanted to fight for my marriage. Everybody kept telling me, "Hey, fight, 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 stay there. Don't Don't give up. And that's what I was doing, and that's what you should do, right? You know what I mean? And that's what I was doing. But I can tell you, I knew pretty early on to me moving in that garage that the odds were stacked against us, that it just wasn't going to happen. But a lot of nights that I spent in that garage where I had my recording studio, I spent in utter pain, in tears, and in just weeping, just hurting. My mom used to have these prayer candles. She would buy these prayer candles, and a lot of you may know about them. They have, pictures of of Mary, or they have Jesus on there, or they have, other types of prayers on the back of them. And my mom used to buy these when we were younger, and she'd light them when something went wrong, or when she was trying to have faith for something that we were trying to do as a family, and she would pray. So I got a couple of those, and I, light them in my studio at night, and I had grabbed my wedding ring and tied it, in a cross that I used to wear, and I would wrap the ring around it, and I'd put it right there with the candle. And honestly, man, I would just pray and pray, and I would be crying, man, like, just begging God to give me a sign, or give me the answers to how I can save my marriage, and I don't want to lose my family. I don't this, I don't that. And I would just weep, 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 weep. I was in such a dark place, man. And remembering that it's, I can remember it now, and I'm fine, because, this is 3 years removed now. But that was a very hard time for me, man. It was very hard. Sometimes I would go for drives. I would take off, and, just to drive, and just, I would lose my temper, man. Just banging on the steering wheel, just angry at God, like just yelling at God, like, how could you let this happen? I don't deserve this, yada, yada, yada. Just going in, you know what I mean? Just being super angry. And you know what? None of that does anything. None of that does anything to help us. It doesn't get us to a better place. And some of you that are listening might be saying, yeah, but it's good to get it out. You got to get it out. And I agree. You do have to get it out. But it doesn't do anything. Because I needed to get to a point where I embraced the storm. I embraced the rain, because that's where the growth came from. And I didn't know that. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you right now is because maybe you're going through something like that. Maybe this current moment in your life, you're dealing with not being able to embrace the rain that's going on, the storm that you're going through right now. But I can tell you, there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is better weather at the end of that. But you have to embrace that storm. You have to look at it and say, I really don't want to go through this right now. I don't want to go through this storm. I'm not ready for this. But I'm gonna strap up. I'm gonna put my jacket on. I'm gonna put my boots, tie my boots. I'm gonna put my backpack on. I'll put my hat on, and I'm gonna power through this thing. You have to get to that point, and I'm telling you right now, it's not going to be easy, because it wasn't easy for me. It's easy for me to talk about this now, because I've gotten past that now, and I've dealt with it, and I've gotten to a point now where now I have this podcast. Now I'm sharing the things that I've dealt with in my life, in hopes that maybe this might help some of you. It's not easy. It was a very hard thing, and like I said, I can talk about it now because I've been through it and I've done it, and I will never I will never tell you guys anything that I've never been through or that I haven't dealt with myself, and come on here and give you guys advice or share things with you that I don't have any direct experience with. I'm only going to always give you things that I have direct experience with, because that's where the truth lies, man. That's where the lessons are, and that I can pass along. Going through those times hurt. They hurt really bad. I'm not gonna lie to you. They hurt bad. But I'll tell you what, man, if it hurts, that means you're still alive. If it hurts, that's good. You still have your feelings. You still have something burning in your soul. You still have a heart. It may be broken at that time. It may not be pumping like it used to. But you're alive. You have feelings. You have to embrace that feeling. The hurt means that you're alive. I had to get to a point where I didn't quit on my kids, my family, or any of those things. And if you're listening, maybe you're saying, well, Ray, I don't have kids. And I don't have a family. I don't have a wife. I don't have any of that. Then what I'm going to tell you is you have to get to a point where you don't quit on yourself. You don't quit on you. You learn to love yourself. You learn to bet on yourself. When you're alone, there's not going to be someone there to pick you up off the ground and say, hey, come on, dust yourself up. Come on, we can do this. It's not going to happen. You got to look yourself in the mirror and you got to say, I'm betting on me. I love me. I deserve to live. I deserve to be happy. I deserve to be in a better place. I don't know how I'm going to get there right now, but I'm going to get up and I'm going to face everything that I'm going through, and I'm going to hit it head on. See, understand something. There is no greatness without a struggle. Okay? You have to go through something in order to become great. You have to. And there is no bounce back without failure. Something's got to give. You can't bounce back if you haven't failed. And that's what this is. That's how I ended up here. That's how I ended up doing this podcast. This is exactly how I ended up here. I bounced back from the worst point in my life to complete failure. Being alone, being lonely, being depressed. I bounced back. See, all of these things are really easy for me to talk about now because I've made that turn, okay? I've gotten to a point where I've gotten a couple of years under my belt now since this whole thing kicked off, and me talking about it has made it easier for me to deal with, and me sharing it with people that I know, people that I love, people that I cherish, and complete strangers has helped me get over that hump. It's helped me become a leader now. See, there's a lot of people, especially nowadays, if you go through social media and you go through Instagram, and it's really Instagram, that are leaders, that are motivational speakers, that are life coaches. That's the cool one, right? Life coach. There are a lot of people who are all these things, or say they're all these things, but have never led anybody through a storm. Let me say that again. They are all those things, but they've never led anybody through a storm. See, it's easy to be a leader in the sun, right? Got great weather. Everything's beautiful. Sun's shining, grass is green, birds are chirping, everything. Who can't lead in that? The true test is, can you lead through a storm? I know for a fact I can lead through a storm, because while I was going through all these things that I tell you guys about, I was also putting myself on the front line and helping people deal with their own problems, even when I couldn't even fix myself, because it made me feel good. It made me feel like I wasn't alone. It made me feel like I was needed. It made me feel important. When someone said, thank you for telling me what you're going through. You helped me. Or thank you for coming here and doing this thing for me. You helped me. Hey, thank you for calling me and talking to me for a half hour, an hour, and talking me off a ledge. You helped me. What these people didn't realize is they were helping me. And to be honest with you, I didn't even realize they were helping me. Because I was alone and I was lonely, and I needed companionship. I needed to feel like someone needed me. Like, what good are we if, you ever been through that? Where you feel like, what good am I if nobody needs me? Why am I here? And before you guys chime in and say, well, you're a father, your kids need you. I know that my kids need me. But you also got to understand that sometimes in life you go to such a dark place that none of that makes any sense anymore. That's how dark it can get. And to be honest with you, I never believed any of that until I went through it. I thought it was all whatever. And then I went through it, and it made sense to me. My battle really kicked off into another gear when I started going to the gym. And there would be nights, a lot of times, there would be nights where I would be in my head. I would be home and I would be, feeling some type of way about my life, about not becoming what I always thought I could be, successful and things that people always thought that I could be as well. And I would start feeling sorry for myself. I would start feeling, again, lonely. How come nobody's calling me? How come no one's checking on me? People know what I'm going through right now. Nobody's calling me. Then I started going to the gym. And I would be at the gym at 12 midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. when there's a handful of people in there. And I'd put my headphones on, and I would just go completely into another zone. And I was never no gym rat, never. But for me, the gym became my sanctuary. It became the place that I went to let out aggression, to let out pain, and to just be, and to tune everything out, to be honest. There would be a lot of the times, I'll be honest with you, man, I was in there in tears while I was working out, thinking about how people abandoned me when I went through my divorce, people that I loved, people that called themselves my friends, people that would babysit my children when me and their mother would go out. People that we would take trips with, they all left me. None of them called me. None of them checked in on me. None of them. I would think about all those things in the gym, and I would be in tears, but I would be working out so hard. And I just would use it to drive me. I would use that anger, that pain in my head and in my heart to push me to be that person, that man that I had right here in my head, the guy that I visioned that I could be, that I never took steps to become. Because yes, I was lazy. Because yes, I didn't think that I needed to do anything else but just be a man who was married and had kids and do what I did. I didn't think that I needed to do more than that. And that's not true. You have to look into the darkness, and you have to know that there's always going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, and you have to fight your way through. Maybe your out is not going to be the gym. Mine was the gym. Maybe yours is going to be something else. Maybe you're a runner. I run too. I bike too. Maybe you read. I love to read. Maybe you're an artsy person. Maybe you do music. Maybe you're a writer. Whatever it is, you've got to find a way to take your mind off the things that are making you feel down, alone, and you have to indulge yourself into these things. Think of all the things that you've wanted to do. Maybe it's a new career. Maybe it's something that you wished you would have went back to school for. Maybe it was something that you just needed time to focus on and put some effort to it to maybe change your life for the future. Whatever it is, you got to throw yourself into that. And you have to hit every storm that you deal with head on. You can't run from it. You can't. I'll go back to telling you guys, all these people who abandoned me, people who called themselves friends, people who called themselves family. Maybe you're going through that right now. Maybe you have friendships that ended abruptly, that maybe were friends for years, and then something happened and you're no longer friends. These people did me a favor. I'm glad they left. Good. They did me a favor. I'm glad I never heard from them. I'm glad I never got a phone call. I'm glad I never got a text. I'm glad I never got an email. I'm glad. They did me a favor, because I wouldn't have learned the lessons that I learned to get me to this point had I had all these people around me still. But they showed me something. Not everybody who calls themselves family to you is family. Not everybody who says they're your friend is your friend. And not everybody who's in your life is going to be there forever. They may be there for just a moment in time. So if that's something you're dealing with, good. These people did you a favor. They got out of your damn way and gave you a clear path to become you. The you you've always thought you could be. They cleared your path. And that's what happened for me. I stopped feeling sorry for myself and I started taking care of myself. You know, it's really cool to live a life and say, hey, it's okay to be out of shape, to eat whatever I want. It's my life. I'm going to eat whatever I want. And if I'm going to die, this is how I'm going to eat. I'm going to go down eating what I want, and don't worry about how I look. This is the way I'm supposed to look. And I hear you. Okay? I hear you. I do. But let me share this with you, because that's how I lived my life, okay? I lived my life and said, "Hey man, I'm not going to worry about what I eat, you know? If I'm going to die because of something that I eat and I enjoy, then that's how I'm going to die. I'm going to live my life the way I live. That's it." You know, and my body is the way it is. I don't think like that no more, because something changed when I got in shape. My mind went where my body went. My thoughts went where my body went, where my health went. All of it is connected. I was severely out of shape. I was eating terrible food every day. I wasn't a heavy drinker, but I was drinking a little more than I normally was. And I just wasn't doing anything. I wasn't exercising. I wasn't doing anything. And go figure, going through all this stuff is when I felt so down and lonely, and no one cares about me. Nobody loves me. I'm alone. And I'm lonely. But when I started going to the gym, and you don't even have to be at the gym, but when I started working out, I noticed my mind changed. My thoughts changed. My demeanor changed. My mentality, my outlook on life changed. Because I felt good. Everything changed for me. I became more active with my kids. I became more eager to learn more things. I started reading books. I was never a crazy book reader. Like I was the guy who I'd grab a book and I'd be like, hey, you know, I'm gonna read this book, and then I'd read a page and a half, and then I'd fall asleep. By the way, if you're on YouTube, this is the Four Agreements. This is the book that I'm reading right now. Amazing book. My second time reading it. But I would do that. I would fall asleep. But when I got in shape, all of these things changed. I had more energy. I was way more active with my kids. I was just more productive during the day. And go figure, I didn't feel alone anymore. My confidence came back. I felt strong. I get it, okay? No one is judging anybody for how you look or how you decide to live your life. But if you are currently living in depression, in loneliness, in feeling down, and feeling like the world doesn't care about you, and feeling like No one cares I'm alone, and no one checks on me. No one cares whether I'm here or not. Why am I here? If you're going through that, I am telling you, all of these things are connected to your health. Your physical health, your mental health, they're all connected. That is the biggest thing that I noticed changed me. And then I went back to church. Not by my choice. My sons got me back in. All of these things helped me get to a point where I learned to be alone and not be lonely. I learned to be busy when I was by myself. I'd read, I'd write, I'd come up with a plan of what I wanted to do with my future. I came up with a plan to do a podcast, and here we are. I'm doing a podcast. I came up with a plan of how I'm going to get my business to grow, and my business has been growing. I wanted to take up new things. I wanted to teach myself, hey, start saying yes to things that you've never done. I started hiking. Look at my hiking gear right here. I started hiking. I started biking. Got a mountain bike. I started biking. I started doing all these things, and I realized I felt alive again. I felt, because I was pushing myself. Started running. I'm not a runner. Still not a runner, but I run. You know why? Because I know what the opposite side of me not exercising or running or biking or going to the gym or hiking, I know what the opposite side of that is. And that is depression. That is loneliness. That is just me not wanting to be here. That's the opposite side of that. I'm going to tell you again, nobody is telling you that you need to look a certain way. Hell, I don't have a six-pack. I don't have any of that. But I'm definitely healthier than I ever been in my life. I promise you, all of that, the stuff you're going through is connected to your physical and mental health. And when you start focusing on getting better there in those two spots, everything else falls in place. It does. I promise you it does. You have to learn to be alone and not be lonely. Not needing to be in a relationship. There are some people listening right now that are habitual relationship hoppers. They get out of one bad relationship, go to the next one. They get out of that relationship, they go to the next one. They get out of that one, they go to the next one. They never give themselves time to heal. They never give themselves time to learn who they are, to get to know themselves, to assess what just happened in that relationship that didn't work out. It's very necessary. You have to give yourself time. And a lot of us are afraid to do that because, again, we don't want to be alone. We have a fear. You got to face your fears. And you got to be okay with that. It's been 3 years for me. And I'm still getting to know who I am. I'm still getting to know the things that I like, the things that I don't like. And yeah, I'm not trying to rush into anything. I'm trying to be the best father I can be. I'm trying to be a better businessman. I'm trying to read as much as I can to keep learning. I'm trying to explore other ventures that I want to maybe get into. I'm trying to explore investment opportunities, which I've never done. I'm looking into wanting to do real estate, not be a real estate agent, but actually jumping in and getting into real estate and buying rental properties. Because I've spent this entire quarantine getting my credit score right, paying off debt. And I've got my credit score higher than it's ever been. But I couldn't have done any of that if I jumped into another relationship and bounced around. I've taken this time to really figure out who I am. And I was able to do that because I faced my fears and I got over being alone, and I'm okay with it. I'm no longer lonely. You can do it. If you're listening and you're going through something like this, you can do it. Don't let people who are yes men in your life make you feel like, hey, it's okay. It's okay, no biggie. Eat whatever you want. Live however you want. It's your life. It is your life. And only you can tell yourself how you feel. You have control over it, just like I did. I got tired of crying. I got tired of feeling bad for myself. I got tired of hurting. I got tired of blaming people for why my life wasn't right. And I got tired of saying nobody's checking on me. Where are my friends? Where are the people that were considered brothers to me? Where were the people that said they were my family? I got tired of all that. Who cares? They left. They did me a favor. Again, they got out of my damn way and cleared my path so I can learn to become the man that I always knew I could be. And this isn't just about being a man. It's for women who are listening too. Maybe there's a vision. You have this vision of who you could have been or who you could be or who you want to be. You control that. It's not a man that controls that. You control that. And fellas, it's the same thing. You control that. Quit blaming people. Quit blaming your past relationships. Quit blaming your parents. Quit blaming your friends. Quit blaming your bosses at your job that you hate. You're responsible for it. If you're tired of feeling alone and lonely and down and out, do the things that you know you should be doing. Take care of yourself. A lot of you stopped learning when you got out of school. Why don't you try learning again? No one's telling you to go back to school. Pick up a book. Read a book. And hey, if you're hearing this, you're listening to a podcast. Listen to more podcasts. There are some great podcasts out there. You choose what you listen to. Listen to some of these great inspirational podcasts from people who have been there where you're at and have gotten through it. Listen to some audiobooks. If you don't have time to read a book, listen to an audiobook while you're driving, while you're exercising. Instead of throwing on a bunch of music, why don't you listen to something that's actually teaching you? I could go on and on and on. You have to be tired of it. You have to be tired of of all these feelings and saying, you know what, I'm going to fix it. Because nobody else is going to fix it for you, okay? We're not. It's just not going to happen. You got to want to fix it yourself. You can learn to be alone and not be lonely. But it starts with you. You got to love yourself. And you got to take care of yourself. Your physical health, your mental health. I'll say it until I die. All of those things are connected to your feelings and your depression. Your mind goes wherever your physical health goes. And I know a lot of people aren't going to want to hear that. And there's a lot of people going through all the excuses in their head as to why they're not in better health. But I'm sorry. Those are excuses. Those are excuses. And when you're done making excuses, you'll get the results. You won't be weak anymore. You won't be in your head. You won't be lonely. Your confidence will be up. You'll be more driven. You'll start chasing the things that you once chased when you were little, when you were younger, when you were in high school, when you were in your 20s. You'll start thinking about those things again. You'll say, you know what? I need to go back to that. That's when I felt alive. I am telling you because I've been there and I did it and I am doing it now. I'm not sitting here not having done any of these things and just telling you. I've done it. Take care of yourself, and I'm telling you, it will all come full circle. And give yourself a break, man. If you are in a relationship or you're getting out of one, don't rush into another one. Take a minute to get to know you, to know what you expect from another person before you jump off into another relationship. And to be honest, bring something to the table. And what I mean by that is become the better version of you. So maybe when you do get into that next relationship, you bring something nice to the table that person has to be thankful for. Take time to get to know yourself. Don't hop into another relationship. Find out what you love. Find out the things that you don't like. And just take time to be alone. And I'm telling you right now, when you become okay with being alone, then you're ready for the next relationship, your next challenge in life. And if you're not a parent, you're ready for parenthood. Because you've conquered that. I'm okay with being alone. I had a friend recently, before I close this podcast, I had a friend recently say, man, I'm with this girl and my life is so much better now that she's in it. She makes me happy. And the only thing I could think about is, what are you going to do if it doesn't work out and she's gone? Because it sounds like you just put your whole stock into this thing. She makes me happy. I don't know what I would do without her. You hear what I'm saying? I know I was there before. And some of you listening have probably said that, or have probably said that recently in the relationships you're in right now. And that's dangerous. Because that sounds like if this person in this relationship doesn't work out, you're going to go to a very dark place and you're going to spiral out of control. To avoid that, you got to learn to be alone and be okay with it. A person can't make you happy. You have to be happy. And then that person's happy, and together, you guys enhance your happiness together. Someone shouldn't have to make you happy. That's all I have. As always, you guys can follow us on Instagram at The Perfect Mess Pod. We are on YouTube. Please subscribe at it's youtube.com and search The Perfect Mess Podcast. And please, if you are listening on Apple Podcasts, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share the episode. If you like it, if you think someone can benefit from it, please share it. That's how this thing grows. If you're listening on Spotify or any other platforms, please do the same. Share, follow, do all those things. We are on patreon.com/theperfectmesspod. If you want to donate or help out and help me grow this thing into something great, I truly appreciate that. Other than that, that's all I have. Thank you guys for listening, man. I really appreciate you guys. And couple more weeks of this quarantine, hopefully we'll be out of it. All right. Hey, love you guys. Take care of yourselves. God bless.
Perfect mess is my perfect mess. Perfect